Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. And thank you for subscribing to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I'm 12 Kyle. Check this out. On this podcast, what we're going to talk about is situationships. More specifically, the signs that you are stuck in a situationship. Now, I'll be the first to admit, I am not a relationship or a situationship expert. I'm married. Been married now at the time of this recording 20 years, right? So I am not an expert. However, I do know people, right? And I study people, and I find a lot of people to be very intriguing and interesting, to say the least. How I came to this topic, I was just messing around on the internet one night, and someone who I don't even follow retweeted someone that let me go back. It was someone that I follow. They retweeted something that somebody that I don't follow retweeted into the timeline. Well, anyway, long story short, it was an article that talked about being in a situationship and how, you can kind of figure out the difference because sometimes the lines get blurred, right? So I started reading the article, because it piqued my interest. But the article started off with someone writing into the editor, I guess. And they basically said, well, hey, I've been hanging out with this guy for 6 months. We see each other fairly regularly, but it's mostly like a Netflix and chill kind of thing. We don't go out on real dates. We have fun together, but I can only see myself settling down with him and just being with him. I could definitely see that happening. And they went on to say that, they don't force define the relationship talk, but they weren't really sure what their next move should be. And so they were kind of seeking some advice, the editor responded with a, quote as far as saying, hey, sounds like you're in a situationship. And again, a situationship is different from a relationship. And in the response, they pointed out 10 key signs to let you know if you are stuck in a situationship. And so the further along that I read, I was like, you know what? This will be a good podcast because I'm sure that there's probably one or two people that have either been in a situationship or maybe they're currently in a situationship or maybe, just maybe, they're headed for a situationship. So grab your number 2 pencil. You want to write this down. The 10 signs that you're stuck in a situationship. Number 1, things don't progress. I think that's big because obviously in a relationship, you have milestones where you expect the relationship to move forward. Like if you're in a relationship, you know that, hey, at some point you'll go from the courting stage to the dating stage to the I think I love him or her stage to the, let's get serious stage to maybe the let's move in together stage to the let's get married stage and so forth and so on. And over that period of time, you have dinners together, you meet the other person's family, that type of thing, and friends. And, it becomes exclusive. And then you get to the point where you can actually say those 3 words. I love you. But when these things do not occur, it's a major red flag. If you're not having any progress, that's a sign that you are stuck in a situationship. Number 2, you're not integrated into their life. Think about it like this. As you become a couple with someone, you're probably going to go to their favorite restaurant with them, or maybe their favorite coffee shop. You know, maybe meet their coworkers. Maybe, have a drink with, one of their friends. Maybe go to, their favorite place the favorite store in the mall or something. Maybe you're shown and acknowledged on their social media platforms. But when these integrations do not take place, that's a sign that you're not moving toward a deeper part of a meaningful relationship. And that is a sign that you may be stuck in a situationship. And I want to stop here because I don't want people to, if you hear me kind of chuckling, it's not because I'm making fun of people, but I've actually had, friends go through this type of stuff. But what's always interesting is like doing these type of podcasts because like my single homeboys, like they will remind me that I haven't been single since Tupac was alive. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. It's true, but hey, again, I'm not an expert. I'm just bringing you game, right? Okay, so number 3, and this is very key. You don't go out on actual dates. Now, part of the dating process really involves you going on dates and kind of, courting each other. And in that process, you are showing that you're invested in that person. You're not taking them for granted or anything like that. But if the person that, you're getting to know or you're kicking it with, if you're not actually going out on actual dates, that's a sign that you may be in a situationship. And I get it. I mean, at the time of this recording, we're in the middle of a global pandemic. I get it. So you don't necessarily want to go to Red Lobster and have a meal. I understand. Netflix and chill is probably the move for a lot of people. I get it. However, there are different ways that you can go on different dates. And if the other person isn't willing to take the extra step to move towards being creative to find a type of date, and so you don't subsequently end up going on an actual date, that's a sign that you may be in a situationship. Number 4, the convention is superficial. When things stay at surface level, that shows that the person is not taking the time to get to know you. And more importantly, they're not showing parts of themselves with you. There's no connection. There's no vulnerability. And the emotional intimacy of things can't really progress. Those are the foundations for a connection and a meaningful romantic relationship. And if everything is just superficial and on board and, there's no openingness, if they're not open with you, yeah, that might be a sign that you're in a situationship. Number 5, plans are inconsistent and not planned in advance. Whoa. Yeah, if everything is kind of spur of the moment, that's a sign that there's a lack of, being able to invest in one's energy and their time as far as getting to know you and you getting to know them. That's a definite indicator that this person is not really invested in you. And if they're not invested in you, they're really not going to be invested into a relationship. Now, granted, I'll be the first to admit there are tons of people who, who kind of fly by the seat of their pants, and they're very, spontaneous and things of that nature. But I think if you're dating someone, it's always good to have something to look forward to. Now, I will speak as a married man that even like my wife and I, we still date. And personally, it feels good to me when I say, okay, well, hey, what you doing Friday? I'm not doing anything. Hey, let's go here. That's a date. And I look forward to that because that gives us something to look forward to. And it keeps the connection stronger. And then obviously with us, we have kids, so it's time away from the kids. And we love that time. So yeah, I mean, if the plans are inconsistent and they're not planned in advance, that could be a sign that you're in a situationship. Number 6. This is very key. There is no future talk. Wow. Yeah. The normal part of a relationship involves, planning for the future, like I just mentioned. Whether or not it's planning to go to a restaurant or planning a trip or, planning to introduce her to your boys who are coming in town for the weekend. If they aren't talking to you about events that are coming up that they want you to be a part of, it's a sign that this person is probably not counting on you to be around for an extended period of time. And if your time is short and there's no future talk between the two of you, that's a sign that you're definitely in a situationship. Number 7, you have not had the define the relationship talk. Oh, man, listen, I can say this from experience. At some point in every relationship, it hits a moment where you have to speak about the definition of what it is that you're doing. Are you dating other people? Do you have romantic feelings toward me? Do you believe in monogamy? I mean, I think that probably should have come up before then, but hey, who's counting? Do you want this to be exclusive? Where are we going? What is this that we're doing? As I mentioned at the beginning, the letter that the person initially wrote in, they said they kicked it for like 6 months. If you kick it with me for 6 months, I mean, that's all we're going to do. Because 6 months is a long time. And I mean, and I know things are different and people date and court differently, than they did when young 12 Kyle was, on those single streets. I know it's different, right? And I know that a lot of times, and I've talked about this on previous podcasts, a lot of it has to do with technology and how we were raised and the way people communicate, because sometimes the courting could be, hey, can I get your phone number? And then I get your phone number and we just text. I mean, personally, I think that's not enough, but hey, some people do that. But, most people put off this conversation as far as defining the relationship for as long as possible. Because I mean, as a guy, if we're kicking it and we're sleeping together, I'm probably not moving towards the, hey, what are we doing here? Defining the relationship talk until I actually have to have that talk. Unless I just like I fall head over heels or something like that. But nah, most people want to, men and women, I would honestly say, I think men and women, they want to put off that conversation for as long as possible. if for no other reason because that's where you figure out where you stand with someone. And let's just say I like Stephanie, right? Me and Stephanie been kicking it for 3 months. Sex is good, conversation's good, we enjoy each other. But I'm still not sure if she's wanting more. And if we don't have this defined relationship talk, then how am I supposed to know? Now, I probably should have, kind of hinted or gotten to the point in our previous conversations as to what my expectations were and maybe what her expectations were. But, a lot of people skip that step. So it happens. But when you're 3 to 6 months into a relationship and nobody's brought this up, that's unusual. And it's not a great sign for you, to be honest. And if you're the one who wants to move towards a relationship and you allow 3 to 6 months to pass before you say something, hoping to turn this situationship into a relationship, honestly, it's probably not going to happen. It's not. But hey, it might, but you never know. But if you have not had the define the relationship talk, you're probably in a situationship. Number 8, you don't have a special event date partner. What I mean by that is when it's time for the family dinner, holidays and things of that nature, Thanksgiving, oh my gosh, Thanksgiving, Christmas, weddings, graduations, other events where you would have a date, you're all by yourself. So me and Stephanie been kicking it for 6 months, but she's not at, Thanksgiving dinner with me, with my family. She's not going to see my little cousin Timmy graduate from high school. Not being able to bring a person that you're romantically involved with to a special event really shows where you stand with that person and where you stand in their life. I'm going to keep it real. And if you have to ask, well, that's your answer. So yeah, if you don't have a special event date partner, that's a sign that you're in a situationship. No doubt. Number 9, there is no concrete proof that you're a couple. If his friends have never heard of you, if his family does not know that you exist, if there is no sign of you on his social media, that is a problem. And I say his because I'm just speaking as a man, but same for the ladies. It is what it is. It goes both ways. It's understandable at the beginning of a relationship, but again, at a certain point, I would like to think that you get to the point where, hey, let me introduce you to my boy, my best friend since the 3rd grade. If that hasn't happened, hey, let me introduce you to my cousin or my mom or my parents or my brother. If that's not happening, if there's no concrete proof, if the pictures that you take and the selfies that you take with him aren't on his Instagram, yep, no proof that you're a couple, it's not a good sign. That's a sign that you're probably in a situationship. And last but not least, number 10, if you're anxious or bored a lot of the time, that's a sign that you're probably in a situationship. When you don't have regular dates, regular phone calls, or regular text messages, that inconsistency can make you feel, anxious and, in a lot of ways lonely. And, when you just hang out at each other's cribs just for the sex, that can become boring as well. If you're feeling these things, then, that's a huge sign that you're probably in a situationship. And ultimately, I think one of the things that you have to take away from this conversation is that you can be one of these 10 things, or you can be all 10 of these 10 things. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to stay there. Ultimately, it's your decision. The one thing I will tell you, and I'm not saying this as a relationship expert, because I'm not, just someone who has observed people. People will make time for what they want to make time for. So if he's saying, oh, hey, I would love to come see you, but I'm playing PlayStation tonight with my boy, you're not a priority. If she says, well, hey, I would love to come see you or love to talk to you, but I'm on the phone with my girlfriend, you're not a priority. And I know the easy default is I'm busy. We're all busy. But the thing is, we make time for whatever we want to make time for. So when it comes to being busy, there's very little excuses that you should accept. Because if you don't have time for me on Wednesday, why should I have time for you on Saturday at midnight? We Netflixing and chilling at midnight? Okay. Nah, Playboy, it's not happening. So hopefully what you have gained from this is just knowledge. At the end of the day, that's all it is game, is knowledge. And if you're in a situationship, you've got one or two choices. You can either move forward towards a relationship and have some conversations, and some of those conversations may be, uncomfortable, but very necessary. Or you can stay on this train. But ultimately, that train's going to crash. That's going to do it for me. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for checking out this edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I'm your boy, 12 Kyle. I'll catch you guys next time. 5 G's.